older women, younger men relationships. Vicki, why the double standard and why do we even need to have a segment on this? Thank you so much for joining us today on Second Act TV. I'm so happy to welcome back award-winning journalist and author Vicki Larson. Vicki, thanks so much for being here again.
Thanks so much for having me again.
Vicki is the author of Not Too Old for That, How Women Are Changing the Story of Aging. And boy, there's a lot of topics that fall under that title, one of which I really want to dig into today because you've also written numerous articles on it, and that is older women, younger men relationships. Vicki, why the double standard and why do we even need to have a segment on this?
Well, it is unfortunately still a double standard, even though there's so many more couples, high profile couples who have this huge age gap with a younger man and an older woman. We are so used to older men having younger women that we don't even really think about it anymore, right? It's just like, well, of course, if a guy's going to do that, he's got money, she's got beauty. But when it's an older woman and it's a younger man, it really goes against what we're used to. And so, of course, automatically there's going to be some judgments about that.
Yep.
That he's going to lose interest, or he's only using her for this. It can't possibly be real. He must be gay, and this is a fake relationship. I mean, it's just very interesting. Or they consider the woman a cougar, and she's somehow predatory, and she's, got some bad influence on a younger man. And it's really, really unfair because the relationships are a lot more equitable than an older man, younger woman.
Yeah. Well, you cite some really interesting relationships. The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, he is, 24 years younger than his wife. And I think when I read about, and I knew about this, but when I read it in your article, I have to admit that kind of sways that judgment that we do have. Because what you were describing, if I'm really super honest, I've thought about that. I as a woman, as an open-minded woman, I fall into that maybe because of what society, has that, what we're used to seeing, like you said.
The thing is, if you have a much older man and a much younger woman, there's a power inequity, right? He obviously has more money, he's more powerful, he's got some status. She's just got youth and beauty, and he'll discard of her when she's lost her youth and beauty. When you switch it around and you have a much younger man and an older woman, like I said, it's much more equitable because for a man, a younger man who could have younger women, for him to want to be with an older woman says a lot about him and what he wants. And he is wanting a confident, accomplished woman. He's not threatened by an accomplished, confident woman. And so I actually appreciate that men are like that, are willing to go against what society says their relationship should look like. And even though, you have somebody like Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron, the thinking is, well, he'll dump her at some point because she will lose her whatever. And she's a very beautiful and sexy woman. She will lose it. We're all going to lose it. He's going to lose it too. But the thing is, that does not matter to someone like him. Anyone who chooses a 24-year age difference, which is big, that doesn't matter. He has other priorities. And so even if you don't want to skew that much younger, it should open your mind up to what really matters in the relationship. What do you want? Do you want a good fit? And if you want a good fit, someone you can talk to and feel that you're equal with, can you find that with someone of a different age group?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the considerations. I did some more research around it and some of the considerations and what really is going on out there. And incidentally, I came across a website that actually caters to this, older women dating. I'll link to it. If anybody wants to check it out, why not? But there are also some interesting statistics to your point, what you just said. And let me just read here. It's actually from the Today Show, I think. There was a survey that found that 81% of women are open to dating someone like 10 years younger than they are. But surprisingly, nearly 90% of men surveyed were open to it. So there was actually more men open to it than women. And they found that in a lot of these relationships, it's the men that have come after that. It's not the cougars, this predatory behavior, but it's the men that actually initiated the relationship.
Well, it's interesting. I did interview for my book and for some of the articles I've written, Cindy Gallup. She's a high-profile ad exec, and she is in her early 60s now, and she has never married, never wanted to marry, and she specifically goes on sites like that to meet younger men for sex. But she looks for men with whom she has relationships with. I mean, it's not just a one and done. She's had relationships with men like that for many years. And she said to me that it is surprising, speaking to what you said, of how many men are really actually very interested in that because they find older women to be much more confident in themselves and they don't have a lot of the insecurities that a lot of younger women have. But the reason why they might be hesitant to date an older woman, especially a much older woman, is because of the judgment and the shame that they're going to get. So there have been some studies also that for women, older women who do date younger men, because we've so internalized that this isn't what we do and it doesn't look like that. So you can internalize those feelings and it can work against your relationship because then you have ambivalence or doubts. And, maybe we will see less and less of that kind of thing as we see more, high profile couples having that kind of age difference. But it's still, society still has a huge impact on us and what we think.
Yeah. Well, and when you look into like what are some of the considerations, the pluses and the negatives about this, that's like one of the number one things that everybody cites is be ready for the scrutiny that you're gonna get either directly, people rolling their eyes.
Right.
It's very very judgmental. This was interesting too, that women generally do end up facing more dilemma than men in these relationships. That because of the scrutiny, it's going to be harder on the woman and can trigger insecurities that maybe it is you're fine with yourself, you are secure, you are confident, but that ultimately it's going to start eating at you. That is he going to leave me? Is he going to leave me for a younger woman? Did you find that at all in your interviews? I was a little surprised by that statement. I don't know who the guy was that wrote it. It's an article, but that surprised me.
Well, it is a guy who wrote it. Of course. Of course the guy will say that. But I mean, it is true because we are part of a society and we have internalized a lot of those messages and continue to, even though so much has changed. I mean, so much has changed. Just in my generation alone, my mother, having to get married to have children and have financial security, we've seen huge strides, and women in the workforce and women in education and women achieving all sorts of milestones that we were never able to do before. And yet, these things still are kind of deep within us. And so, yes, if you are unsure that this is real, that it's going to last, maybe this is just a fling, unless you actually are convinced yourself that this is exactly what you want and you both feel on the same page about it, yes, of course, there's going to be some dissonance about it, because everyone's looking at you as if you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
That
Right.
this can't possibly be for love and this and that, because don't guys want younger women, more beautiful women? Some men do, absolutely, but not all ones.
No, I agree. And the more that I read about this, and as I said, earlier, is there's some judgment my way that I didn't realize I had. But the more you read this, especially again about a couple like Bridget and Emmanuel, if I can call them by their first names. And did we already say that's the same age difference as Trump and Melania? But nobody.
We didn't, but yes, it's a 24-year age difference. And when I first discovered that, then you go, wow. I mean, a lot of people have a judgment about Trump and Melania on that, except, the judgment is not favorable on her,
Mm-hmm.
not him.
Right.
Not favorable on her. And I don't know if we know what to do with a 24-year age difference with Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte, except, again, to judge her. She, not judgment on him.
Right, exactly.
So the woman always kind of suffers no matter what we do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that goes to that point that there is more scrutiny on the woman, and it could eat at your confidence. And that's something, I guess, to be aware of. They also say that, and this makes perfect sense, that really a relationship is a relationship. It's not much different, or I should say, whether the relationship works or not is the same whether or not there's an age gap or not. It's just maybe being aware of some of that extra scrutiny that you're going to get because of the state of our society.
Right. And, unfortunately, that still seems to matter. It's the same thing if you don't, like our last conversation about living apart. It's the same kind of thing. Like, well, it doesn't look like that. Well, it can look like that. Why can't it look like that? Have you ever stopped to go, why can't it look like that? And so, yes, I think in these kind of relationships, you have to be aware that you're likely going to get judgment and scrutiny. And as much as you want to say, well, I don't really care about that, it can impact how you feel about your relationship if you haven't really thought it through, why this relationship really matters, why you want this relationship, why it's working for you, so that you can have a strength to, come back at people and say, well, why does that bother you? Or whatever it is that you want to say, and to not let it eat at you. Yeah.
Right. Well, and then one of the good things that are pointed out, maybe also against popular belief, is that the sexual compatibility really plays in favor of that couple, with men hitting their stride, so to speak, at 20 and women in their 30s and 40s, and lots of stuff that we do here at Sex on this channel is, women lose their sex drive, women, not true.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I would say this for my girlfriends and I, when we all got divorced in midlife, all of a sudden, yes, younger men were very interested in us. And a few of us had flings, and one had a long-term relationship. So, and yes, the sex is great. We're actually pretty equally matched. So, I think we talked about this before. Women don't lose desire at midlife and their body changes. It's very often that if you are an older woman, you are more sexually compatible with a younger man. Yes.
Well, it's an interesting topic. I haven't gone there yet on this channel. I don't know why. Maybe because I personally haven't done it. It's never appealed to me. I don't know why. I've never thought about it. And it's just very interesting. Like I said, I loved your articles, and I think they really did sway my belief that these relationships are viable. Couples have demonstrated that, this is it could be totally normal. So we're starting to run out of time. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we sign off?
Well, yeah, I did want to say that because women tend to marry or be with men who are older than they are, they often spend many years alone. The average age of a widow is 59. And so here's one other bonus of being with someone who's younger than you are. You may not spend so much of your older years alone.
Yeah. Again, a great topic under your umbrella of changing the way that, the story that we have about aging. It's so important, so important. We'll get lots of interesting comments on that, and I look forward to them, talking to our viewers. What do you think about this? Have you been in this kind of relationship? Would you initiate this relationship? Leave us your comments. Vicki, I will link to all of your information to the articles. Vicki is a journal, well, she's an award-winning journalist, but you can follow her on Medium. I'll leave a link to that as well, to your book. And anything else that you want me to say?
No, but I really appreciate and love what you're doing. And I would love to hear and read the comments from your audience on this topic, as with all the other topics, because you have clearly a very intelligent, curious viewership, and I appreciate their open-mindedness to a lot of these wonderful topics that you cover. So thank you for that.
Maybe you'll get some more ideas. Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate your time as always, and we'll see you again soon on Second Act TV. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.